Okay, so in this particular session, I'm just going to look at ChatGPT, which is from the OpenAI um, company, and also how that works with Python. So basically, I'm sort of going to link ChatGPT to Python, and there is actually an API, and I've kind of built one, and loads of people have done this, and there's a ton of stuff out there. So basically, that's what I'm going to look into, and we'll go along and try and complete it and get a ChatGPT. So put a request into Python and get that working. So let's just go about, and here's the actual ChatGPT box as well. So I prepared something where something like um, there we go. Oops, something went wrong. So let's just do a refresh. It's a little bit slow on the website actually, and it's a bit better in the Python queries. So that's one advantage of coding it up um, as opposed to kind of just using the web page that's provided. But I'll stick this in here anyway, and we'll probably get some kind of an answer that it will spit itself out for. But in the meantime, hopefully an answer will come about. I'll drag that back onto the screen if it does. But in the meantime, what we actually need to do is you need to go into the ChatGPT website and create an API key. But assuming that you've done that, obviously the API keys are private, so that's one part that I can't show. But you would have your own particular API key. You just need to install the import for OpenAI with a pip install of the OpenAI. So and that's really it. So in fact, I will do a Control J and something like over here, pip install OpenAI, which I already have. So that's already available. So everything's going to be completed here, and all of the packages will be satisfied. But if you didn't have it, it would install it. And the first thing we can do is, I need to bring in the private key, and I've just put it in this file called my key here. So my underscore key, and that's sufficient to kind of bring in the private key, and then import OpenAI, and that is the actual OpenAI functionality. And effectively, we need to use your own API key here. So whatever your API key is. So let's just do it. Open API dot API key is going to equal to my key dot secret. I've just called it secret key. So there's only one line in there, and that's the secret key, and that's sufficient to get everything up and running at that point. I'm just going to check actually if the it looks like the answers come back. So this is kind of like what I'm going to ask. I'm going to copy and paste this same block of code into here, and write a function that takes a list of integers and as inputs and returns the sum of the even numbers in a list using the correct indentation. And I actually just took that out of, I'll try and zoom in if I can. There we go. I actually just took this out of a question. I think that was on Stack Overflow or somewhere, and I thought I'd answer it. And I just thought, well, let's just see what if ChatGPT comes up with a better or worse method. Loads of people have been doing those sorts of comparisons. So that's basically what it is. And this was the answer that ChatGPT came out with there. And you might argue that this is the best or not the best answer, but nevertheless, it is an answer and it gets you to a certain point. So I will actually, I think at that point, let's just make what goes in there, that actual question, what goes in is called a prompt. So we'll just make a variable called prompt, and it will just be a prompt, and it will just be a string. And the string that we will use, we'll just make a string like this. In fact, I'm going to put it in brackets, and the reason why is because I think it possibly needs to be all in brackets, because it doesn't. The multiple lines might create some confusion there in terms of how it goes in, whereas the brackets takes it all as one string, and we'll see that. But I'm going to just copy that piece of text that was there and stick it all in. So this exact same question, and it's literally, let's pull it back up, literally just copying this exact piece of text and putting it straight into what I'm calling, or what is called the prompt, which is the asking of the question. So we paste that question in there, and then that's what we're effectively going to ask. And the way of doing this is have a completions. So I'm going to create another version. So ChatGPT does something. Well, the openai import does something. This module does something, and it's got a method in there called completions and create. So you can create these completions, and the way to do that is literally we'll create a variable. Completions, we'll just call it completions, and we'll assign that to this openai, and then completion. So it's this particular method here, this particular class completion dot create, and tab. If I kind of hover over it, we can see create a new completion for the provided prompt and parameters. So here we're just sticking in one prompt. There's no particular parameters that go in here. And there is a link to the documentation as well, which you could visit also. But let's just we'll just continue with that. And some of the parts that we need is engine. So we need to tell it the engine, and I think the engine is something called the text. There's different types of engines, but this one seemed to work. So it's a text DaVinci, so the AVINCI DaVinci dash 002 engine, and there's a few different types of engines, so it's something to look up. Then there's other arguments that go in here. The second one we'll put in the prompt. So prompt is equal to prompt, which is our prompt from above. So this the prompt is actually this particular string here. So maybe we'll actually just run that string as well just before we do it, just to see. And then there's other parameters as well. Max underscore tokens equals 1024, which seems to be a standard parameter. N equals 1. Some of these parameters, by the way, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what they do, but you can go to the website and have a look, and you can have a little tweak around with them as well. And then stop equals none, and then finally something called the temperature equals 0.5, and I think that was everything that was needed to complete it. And then we do down below, once you've got your completions, we do story, because we're getting a story out of this. So we just create this variable called story, or whatever we wanted to have, whatever you want your variable to be called, but it's going to be the output result effectively, and that's going to be completions, which is this whole variable above, whatever was returned, dot choices. So story.completions.choices 0, which is the first element of it, dot text, and I'll break that down as well as we go, and then print story. So effectively we're going to have something like this, and let's just try and run this piece of code if we can, and hit F5. Oops, okay, run and debug. Let's get it going. Create a launch. Oh, there we go, it's all running. And here we go. We do get the output over there, and it's created. Here is the output. We've printed the actual text string of the output, and if we just pull back over our ChatGPT here and possibly minimize it, well, not minimize it, but just reduce it, we'll see that we get the same text that comes back. Some have even less. In fact, it's changed it a little bit, so from one to the next, and that's what it does. And actually, funnily enough, this was the slightly better method that I think that I came out with when I was doing it. But they're going to result in the same type of thing. We could actually even test it out. But that's ChatGPT giving back its return. And I guess one of the things was that I wanted to show on this was possibly the choices. but maybe we'll leave that for another section. But ultimately, it's as simple as doing the making sure that you've got an API key, so you have to sign up for that, and then just pip install the OpenAI, and then create your prompt. And just literally using these parameters. I wonder if I can just remove this comma, because I'm not sure if that comma was necessary or not, but it seemed to be used in the documentation. And the query now is actually going about. Let's have a look. Oh, yes, it's the same result. We got the same result back twice. I was just wondering if it would produce a different result second time round, but it didn't. And that's basically it. So we create our completions with the OpenAI module and this completion class and this create function, which creates a new completion for the provided prompt given a certain number of parameters. And these are the parameters that we've given it. And our prompt was this string up here. And finally, we get our story or our result text, whatever we wanted to call that variable, which was based on the completions and the first argument of the choices component of that. And we're extracting the text out of that because that's what we want to see. So that's basically it for ChatGPT and Python.